This is Channels Television's breaking news.
Adnan Syed has been released from prison. This person spent 23 years after he was convicted for the murder of Hae Min Lee. On Monday, a judge deemed that ruling illegitimate, citing unreliable evidence and alternative suspects for the reason of his release. Back in '99, he was convicted for the murder of Hae Min Lee, who was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Back in 2014, Adnan Syed, his case was featured on a podcast called Serial, a 12-episode podcast which is a team led by journalist and host Sarah Cohen investigated Lee's murder and uncovered a number of issues with the trial that found Syed guilty. Cohen says was shocked. They didn't see this coming at all. And new evidence has apparently been uncovered. Syed did not speak to reporters, but his attorney told Baltimore Sun he couldn't believe it's real. Hae Min Lee was strangled to death and buried in Baltimore's Lincoln Park. Syed is now 41. Think about it. 23 years ago, he was 18. 23 years later, he's 41. It's almost kind of half of his adult life in prison. This week's ruling did not proclaim him innocent. It concluded that the original trial had not been just. The state no longer has confidence in the integrity of the conviction. Just 6 days ago, the prosecutors dropped the charges against Adnan Syed. Prosecutors dropped charges against Adnan Syed on Tuesday in the 1999 killing of Hae Min Lee after DNA testing excluded him as a suspect. The state attorney's office said they would continue to pursue justice for Lee. They closed the case against Syed, who spent 23 years in prison for the killing. The office dropped the charges after receiving results on Friday of DNA testing on Lee's skirt, pantyhose, jacket, and shoes that was conducted under a more modern technique when the evidence in the case was first tested. Although no DNA was recovered from the skirt, some was recovered from Lee's shoes, and Adnan Syed's DNA was not one of them. So Adnan Syed is out. Convictions overturned. The judge gave prosecutors 30 days to decide to retry the trial or drop the charges. The judge also stated that the state had violated its legal obligation to share evidence that could have bolstered Syed's defense. The state held back what's called exculpatory evidence. That is evidence that can be used for your defense, and they must hand you that evidence, or else that is unconstitutional. My thoughts? Mr. Adnan Syed. I was in high school back at the time, 2015, 2016, 2017. That's kind of when I heard the podcast, and I was very interested in this case. Did this guy kill Hae Min Lee? I believe they're in some kind of relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't know. But did this guy do it, and why would he do it? He was a handsome young kid in high school. Why would he throw that stuff away? If he didn't do it, was the prosecutor overzealous? They just want another win in the win column. Or did the prosecution back then do everything by the book? They should have the technology to roll them out like today that we can. Like DNA testing in the 90s, it wasn't like it was today. They can do like fingerprints and blood tests, but not DNA testing, like in 2022. So maybe they had a bunch of circumstantial evidence that pointed to Syed, but they didn't really have any clear evidence that could acquit him. Now, my question is, if they did hold back evidence, what was that evidence? I don't know. I do feel bad for him. 23 years, a long time. What does this mean moving forward? It means the case is still open. There are suspects out there that did this. The question is, can they be brought to justice? Because it's been 23 years. They have a 2-decade head start on the state of Maryland. So it's going to be a tough future for the family of Hae Min Lee. Adnan Syed, nearing 50, he's going to have a tough life as well. But now that he is free, he has a chance to restore some parts of his life that he had lost. This is another big overturning of a conviction. Last year was Bill Cosby. He was exonerated after we made a deal. The DA, then the DA that succeeded, Bruce Castor, went back on it. Same thing here. DA holds back evidence against Syed, and now he's out. Is there a problem with the prosecution office? Does the United States have too many laws? Are we too punitive? Are we not holding by our legal standard of everyone's innocent until proven guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt by judge or jury? Go on Twitter. All we need is people to point the finger at you. I think everybody today needs to take a deep breath, relax, and see things through. This is my thoughts on Adnan Syed. He is free, exonerated. We'll see what happens. More news stories to come.